What's that, Jenny? You've got how many? What are we going to do? Oh, I know! 1,000 subscribers video! Yes, here it is finally. I'm so sorry. This should have been out like 6 weeks ago, but it isn't. Life got in the way, but never mind. We're here now, so let's get on with answering some of your questions. So, first up, another postcard. Commander Flynn, Ando, Chris, hello, all, and quite a number of other people, I'm not going to name all of you, asked roughly the same sort of question about this, and it says, to put it in another postcard's words, what was the muse that made you decide to plug in a microphone and start playing games for us on YouTube? Well, I must admit, this is not actually a terribly pleasant story, but this time last year I had to have a minor operation, very unpleasant operation for something, and I got stuck off work for a lot longer than I thought I would do. And I found that I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't play computer games all day because after about 10-15 minutes I was absolutely exhausted and I was just very bored. I was watching the Tour de France and getting very bored, and I decided to watch some other people playing through computer games instead. Like Amnesia was the big one. Really wanted to play through it or see somebody play through it, just find out a bit more about it. And I remember watching it was Toby Turner's series about it actually that sticks out for me, and I watched that all the way through because it was relatively short. And then I genuinely can't remember who else I watched, but probably the big names. And in the middle of it all, I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do this. It was more of just a technical challenge, I suppose, more than anything, as to whether I could get the kit working and whether I could talk incessantly for 15 minutes, which, as you know, I can. And I messed about trying to get stuff working. Well, more on that in a minute. And put the first video up, and lo and behold, people started watching it. And I was quite shocked, actually, at the number of subscribers, and I was getting some really nice comments, and it was the nice comments that made me want to carry on. I was always going to do it for my own entertainment anyway, but it is interesting. If you're going to put something in the public domain, you want to know whether other people are going to listen to it, and they did. And it was brilliant, and it was, as I say, the nice comments on the way I did things and my voice and all that sort of thing that made me think, okay, go on then, I shall carry on with this. Quivrin, hello sir, says, what made you decide to do the Elder Scrolls series, and have you thought about doing Morrowind? Have I ever? Yes, I was actually going to start out with Morrowind. It's one of my favourite games. And that actually originally was what I wanted to do. And if you'll notice, the first couple of test videos that I put up actually are Morrowind, but as you will also see from them, it just kept crashing. I could not get it to work properly. Something about Morrowind and Fraps, something about every game and Fraps, that they just don't agree with each other at all. And I had terrible problems. And because I was doing it for fun, I didn't want to be faffing about with all of that. I'd already gone rooting around under the bed for a microphone and was in pain and what have you. And I just didn't want to have to mess about. So I thought, well, what else could I do? And Oblivion seemed like the next most obvious thing. And lo and behold, it recorded properly. So that's what I decided to do. I thought, well, I'll go with Oblivion and see what happens. At the time, obviously, Skyrim wasn't out, and I also thought that maybe a few people would enjoy revisiting Oblivion, which indeed they do. And I had some very, very pleasant comments, and people just seemed really interested in it, so that's why I carried on with it. Speaking of the microphone, Gordon the Gamer, hello sir, says, can you tell us about your microphone setup, because you always sound awesome. Thank you. Well, talking about digging about under the bed, I started out, I wish I'd taken photographs now, I started out with an earpiece mic thing that I had got off the front of a computer games magazine years ago, and to get the microphone anywhere near my mouth I had to wind it round my glasses in this particularly elaborate setup. It looked hilarious. It worked, but it was a faff. And I think that certainly the first couple of test videos and possibly one or two of the earlier Oblivion videos were filmed with that, if I remember rightly. But I remembered that I had bought this directional studio mic years and years ago. I mean, we're talking, God, I dread to think, probably, no, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and never used it. I got it in part of a, it was one of these kind of make-your-own-hit type things that I bought cheap from a bookshop. And it went under the bed and I never saw it again. And it's been under every single bed I've ever slept in ever since. So, against my better judgment, I got down under the bed, which was far more of a faff when you've had an operation than you would ever imagine, and dug it out. And I set it up, and God knows how I set it up, because I didn't have a stand for it. I'm not quite sure how I did that, but I did. I got it near my mouth, and started out, and it sounded really good, and people commented that it sounded really good. So I added to that a pop stopper, just a cheap thing off eBay, and got a really cheap stand off eBay, and now I look like one of these old-time radio broadcasters. I don't use a headset. I just sit here in front of this microphone, and it does sound really good, and it's so cheap. And that's what winds me up when people have basically rubbish quality audio on videos, because it is not an expensive thing to set up. In fact, people are always coming to me for tips. They're always saying, "Oh, Jenny, what do I do to make people watch my videos?" I'll let you into a little secret. The number one thing, the very first thing that I pick up on when I'm watching a new Let's Player, or indeed any Let's Player, is the quality of your voice. If you are crackly, quiet, overloading, or whatever the problem happens to be, and there are a multitude of them, I am probably not going to watch on. You know, I'm not perfect. My audio overloads some of the times, and it drives me absolutely mad when I hear it back. But if your video's like that all the time, I'm definitely not going to want to listen to it, however excited you might be. Anyway, moving on. Let's get off my own videos. What was your most memorable video game as a child? Asks Arexos. Hello, sir. This is a bit of an obscure one. My most memorable video game, and the one that I spent hours bashing away at on the keyboard as a kid, was an old one called Dragon Slayer for the Acorn Electron. I think it was either on a cover disc or it was one of those type it in yourself jobs. I think it was on a cover disc. And it was brilliant. It was a map made out of ASCII characters, or little characters. And it was like an RPG. You had to put points into your strength and dexterity and constitution. And you bought weapons and went off. And the ultimate aim of it was to go and fight the dragon. But you went in dungeons and you fought all sorts of things and you found gold, and it was all very exciting. And I really loved it. And I resurrected this a few years ago. My dad still got the Acorn Electron, so it came out. And I sat there on the floor playing Dragon Slayer, just happy as Larry. I loved it. And I really want somebody to recreate this game. If anybody out there knows this game, please make me a copy of it. That will work on my PC. I don't remember enough about it to be able to ask anybody to put something together from scratch, but it was great. I just loved that game. If I could have one thing back, it would be that. Getting away from that, no, that is the most memorable one. I suppose the other one would be NHL 95. As you all know, I'm a bit of an ice hockey fan, and countless days of my life were spent hacking away at NHL 95, not being able to score a goal for the first God knows how many hours of it. There's so many though, so many, but the most memorable one, yeah, Dragon Slayer, definitely. Let me say yeah! Rob asks, what really makes or breaks a game for you? That's a good question. I'm not a big fan of games that are not, I was going to say terribly realistic. Obviously, nothing is terribly realistic, but I don't like games particularly that are cartoony. I'm not big on that. And that's a really difficult question, actually. I think front-end presentation and stuff is quite important to me. to go back to the NHL example, actually, if you look at the difference between NHL 95 and, say, a later one, 2003. 2003 just has menus and you just play the game, whereas 95 was more of an effort to put you into the whole arena, the whole world of it and the game and what was going on. So the opening menu screen was like a commentator sitting in a TV studio, and in between periods it would go to out-of-town scores and show you highlights from other games and that sort of thing. And it was all nonsense, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant, and I really like that kind of thing. And I don't like it when it's just game mechanics, because I can beat game mechanics, but I can't become absorbed in game mechanics. And so, yeah, for me, it's that immersion and not ending up playing the system of the game as opposed to the game itself, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I'm sure it probably doesn't. Chris Anderson cheekily asks, "Are you happy with not being a brilliant gamer?" I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Am I happy with not being a brilliant gamer? What are you trying to say? No, in all seriousness, yes, absolutely and utterly happy. Pet hate is people who put comments on my videos, and you're all going to do it now because you like that, saying, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Look in this chest. Use this sword. Up this level, blah, 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 blah." I'm not really all that interested. If people want to play through games perfectly, they can do it themselves in their own time. I just like the experience. As with the last question, I like the immersion. You may have noticed I kind of turn it into my own life in some ways. So, no, I mean, it depends what you call a brilliant gamer. If brilliant means achieving every achievement, 100% scores, whatever else constitutes being top of the high score table these days, then no, I'm not a brilliant gamer. But if being a gamer means getting involved with the game in the way that it was intended, then I would argue I am perhaps quite good at that. And I think being a brilliant gamer in the terms of doing things perfectly is wildly overrated. I don't know whether I'm just from a generation who perhaps doesn't like that quite as much, but I do think that kids now, it's just all, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why aren't you getting it perfect? Why? Well, because I don't enjoy that. What I could have done was rehearsed going through Oblivion 15 times, worked out how to do it absolutely perfectly, never missed an object, always got the right amount of gold for items, never died, blah blah blah. What's the point? What is the point? Some of you will have noticed that I play through Skyrim completely blind. I've got no idea what's going on most of the time, and it leads to me making errors, but is that not life? These games are remarkably similar to life in their way, and I think that if you attempt to do it all perfectly, all that's going to happen is you're going to get very angry. As long as you learn lessons from it, I think it's okay. So yeah, I am perfectly happy with what people I think now think of as being a brilliant gamer. I'm not, I never will be, and I don't intend to try. Gurney Halleck, hello, says, "Who made GameplayJenny for you?" Who indeed? Oddly enough, another Jenny. There is a woman called Vocals on Fiverr. Fiverr is a site where people will do things for you for $5. And she is a professional singer and musician. And she was offering what they call a gig. She was offering a product whereby she would record a jingle. And so I went to her and said, "Would you be prepared to do something for me? I don't really know what I want, but I had a kind of vague idea." And I sent her the brief, and she sent that back, and I thought it was brilliant. I could not stop laughing when I heard it. She has since done me a slightly different variation on it for the highlights outro, and it's fantastic. I can't recommend her highly enough. She's very nice. She turns things around very quickly. She redoes them if you're not happy with them. What's not to like? So hello, vocals, Jenny on Fiverr. Thank you very much for that. And we're done. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. I just wanted to say an absolutely gigantic thank you, not just to the first 1,000 subscribers, but also to the 400 or so who've come in since, and to the 1,000 after that, and maybe the 1,000 after that. Who knows where it's going to go. Hello to everybody on Twitter. Hello to everybody who leaves me nice comments, except for people who put first. That really winds me up. Don't do that. With any luck, with another 1,000 subscribers and another 200 videos and another year on the clock, maybe we'll be doing all of this again. Thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you all soon.
Gameplay Jenny! Yeah!